Thank you very much for that. Greetings from the Hindu Forum of Britain to all of you at this conference. I'm truly amazed by the scope of this conference and the number of people here and the variety of things to do and see. In fact, I've never seen so many people of faith gather in one place in Britain. It's fantastic. And in fact, in the last census in Britain, we found out that more than 75% of the people here actually chose to belong to one faith or the other. And it's exactly the same across the globe. The majority of the people in the world say they belong to one faith or the other. And of course, the core principles of every religious tradition contain some universal values. It doesn't matter which faith you belong to, but people of every faith tradition believe in a creator, believe that we need to serve the creator, and believe in certain universal values like peace, charity, friendship, and that we also share the same passion for upholding justice and peace. Yet, with so much in common, with so much that binds us together, we see around us, probably very ironically, a world that is so much full of conflict, injustice, and poverty. But, for instance, by the time I finished making this speech, about 50 children would have died simply because they didn't have enough to eat. Another 50 people would have died because of dehydration and because they did not have 25 pence to buy a rehydration pack. And by the time I finished the speech, several million children in the world under the age of 10 would have just finished a 15-hour working day, and they would have just earned less than £1 each. So you can see there's so much work for all of us to do. As people of faith, we have a lot of work to do to try and reduce this injustice in the world. And of course, as people of faith, because we share certain key values, we therefore become more responsible to do this. And every faith tradition accepts that it's not permissible to oppress women, oppress children, oppress the sick and needy. And every faith tradition accepts that we need to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and heal the wounded. And in fact, when we speak of human rights as people of faith, we speak of human rights in the eye of God. Because in the eyes of God, every person, whichever faith tradition they belong to, is equal. And therefore, everyone must be treated equally and with justice. In the Hindu scriptures, in the Bhagavad Gita, it's explained that one must look upon every entity, every living entity, every soul, every person as equal, because everyone is actually an eternal spirit soul. Everyone has a relationship for eternity with Almighty God. And therefore, one must treat everyone equally. And of course, in the Quran, it's said, and I quote from the Quran, this verse, this is about charity and giving. It is not righteousness that you turn your face towards east or west. It is righteousness to believe in God, to spend of your substance out of love for Him, for your kin, for orphans, for the needy, for the wayfarer, for those who ask, and for the freeing of captives, to be steadfast in prayers and practice regular charity. And in the Hindu tradition too, charity is linked to God and His creation. In the Ishopanishad, the holy book of the Hindus, it's declared that everything animate and inanimate belongs to God, and therefore one must not covet another person's wealth, but accept what is given to oneself as one's share. Now, this verse immediately brings into focus three core principles. The first principle is the proprietorship of God, which means that God owns everything. In fact, we do not even own the semi-detached house we may live in. For God is the owner of everything. And the second principle is the custodianship of man, which means that we simply, as servants of God, take care of God's wealth. And the third principle is to act as responsible custodians, which means we learn to take care of it properly and responsibly share with others. Now, this is not uncommon because every faith tradition shares these values. And just out of these values that people of faith become motivated to act in charity, to give away and share and care. And you only have to look around yourself and look at various organizations, faith-based organizations that are doing global development work, like Christian Aid, CAFD, Muslim Aid, Jewish Relief, and Hindu organizations like Seva International and BAPS Care International. And they're all doing phenomenal work across the globe. They're touching millions of lives and making a real difference to people. And of course, they feel motivated to do this because of their faith. But they're all doing it in their own way. They're actually acting almost in silos. They do come together sometimes in bodies like the Disaster Emergencies Committee, but after that they go off and do their own thing. But how much better would it be if all the people of faith could come together and do this work properly together? For instance, if all these organizations could come together to identify global issues and find working relationships and partnerships by which they can tackle these issues together, we could make a real difference. Millions of more people could be touched, and we could make a phenomenal difference and create a greater impact in the lives of people. And I think that's why it's important for people of faith to actually come together in great mutual respect for one another, and sometimes in resolving global issues, shed some of their identity even sometimes, shed their differences, and work together simply as human beings in the service of God and in the service of humanity. And then, perhaps, we can have global unity and peace. Thank you.